Well, welcome to the podcast, everyone. I'm Marcy Markusa, and if you're just joining us, then you know that this podcast is relentlessly about Manitoba and Manitobans. And because it's summertime, we've got a special edition today. We're asking you, where are you going to go in the province this summer? And don't worry, we have the answers for you. That's the whole point. We're going to cover 5 different topic areas. So whether you like to stay in a hotel or get out in the backwoods, whether you're a camper or a glamper or you want to take a day trip, there's so much to do in Manitoba. Now, I can't come up with all this on my own. So today on the podcast, my guest is Allison Dalke, who is with us here at CBC. She's from Travel Manitoba. She's a communication specialist. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Marcy. I'm really excited about our topic today.
You know what? I am too, because I travel all the time in Manitoba, but lots of times for work.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm in communities at points of news happening or and then I'm always reminded just how different all these places are in this vast place that we call home and how beautiful it is.
I know Manitoba is large. I think sometimes we forget that, being especially me as a Winnipegger, I sometimes forget how big Manitoba is. But if you get in your car and you drive, there's so much to see and there's so much to do.
Totally. So our questions, what are you going to do, Manitoba? And you're going to answer. So it was hard to come up with categories.
It was, yeah. There's so much to cover in this province. But I think we landed on a few good ones that'll give everybody a little something to think about.
So why don't we start, though, before we get into sort of our advice and our different categories with what everyone starts with, which is planning. Yeah. Do you guys at Travel Manitoba, I know you do, you have a number of ways that will help us kind of pare down what we can do, right?
Yeah, so a big part of what we do is help Manitobans make trip planning easy. So some of the big things we have is an annual publication called the Inspiration Guide, and it's full of ideas of things to do, places to go, places to eat, places to stay across the province. And we provide this publication free for all Manitobans. So it's available online and it's available in print at our visitor information centers. And I don't know if people are aware of this, but we actually have 4 visitor information centers across the province. 2 of them are seasonal, so they're only open in the summer. But one of them is in Whiteshell, one of them is in Kirkella. There's one here at the Forks in Winnipeg, and then one at Emerson. And they're all stocked with our inspiration guide and other brochures from destinations across the province. So it's a really great resource for trip planning. You can also call our travel counselors at these centers and ask them their advice. And they are equipped with all sorts of trip planning ideas, their own experiences. They're also all bilingual. So if you're wanting trip information in French, call our visitor information centers and they'll be able to help you out.
This is the Inspiration Guide, so I'm going to drop it for the sake of those that are listening, because there. Oh, yeah. I hit my highlighter, but it's pretty heavy, 120 pages, and you section this out. What I also love is, of course, because you're all about promoting travel, it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful publication.
It really is.
To look at all the food to entice us and accommodations and all the different things.
Yeah, we call it an inspiration guide because we fill it with just inspiring photos that really draw you in. But we also have some really great partners who have guides as well. Tourism Winnipeg has a great visitor's guide that's everything Winnipeg. And our partner, Indigenous Tourism Manitoba, just came out with the first Indigenous tourism experiences print guide called the Adventure to Understanding Guide. And so you can pick that up at the Forks Visitor Information Center. You can call us and we can mail you a copy if you're not in Winnipeg. But it's full of authentic Indigenous experiences you can have in Manitoba.
Which is so cool. And that's one of our categories. So we'll get to it, we promise, in the podcast today. Now, what's cool too is you also already, this is your season, right?
Yeah.
Because summer's so beautiful in this province. You have 50 things to do this summer, and you also have a big list of free that you've already put together. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. So another big trip planning resource, which ties into those lists, is our website. And on our website, we have a blog. It's called the Explore MB blog. And so we have staff who it's part of their job to come up with all these amazing lists to help people plan their summer travel. So we've got, you mentioned the 50 things to do this summer. We've got the big list of free, which actually covers all seasons. And I just remembered one this morning when we were talking about day trips. We've got the ultimate list for Manitoba drive-ins. So like your classic like burger and fries kind of places outside of Winnipeg. So if you're looking for a day trip and you love that classic like drive-in experience, we've also got a blog on that as well.
Do you ever get people calling Travel Manitoba and being like, I'm kind of overwhelmed and kind of lost. Can you help me with this? And then, you're having to answer with telling them about the resources, or actually, I know you're not travel guides per se, but do you get people actually calling and reaching out?
Yeah, absolutely. People call. You can also email us, and I can give you the email address. It's also on our website. And so, yeah, people call and ask for advice all the time. And we have travelers who stop in at the Forks who, they're coming through. An example is there's a big group of people who like to travel across the country in RVs. And so they'll often stop at the Forks and drop in and get information about where to stay with their RVs, where to go camping, things like that. So we do have people reaching out, and we've got the resources to help them.
Okay. Do we know that email offhand, or we'll get that off?
Yeah, it's contact us
Yep.
at travelmanitoba.com.
Okay. I'm writing it down. Contact us at Travel Manitoba. Travel MB or the full word?
Travel Manitoba spelled out.
Okay, .com. Perfect. Are we
Yeah.
ready for our categories?
Yeah, let's dive in.
You tell me where we're starting.
Well, let's start with the outdoors.
Okay.
Because it's a beautiful day.
So outdoors can mean a lot of things. So a lot of
Yes.
people say hiking, camping, or glamping, I guess.
Yeah.
Where do you want to begin?
Well, it would be remiss of me not to mention beluga whales in Churchill. We are coming into beluga whale season. And so I don't know if people like to follow travel sites on Instagram. I love to do that. And so some of our partners are already posting that they're seeing beluga whales coming into the river there. So that is a really unique experience. It's a bit of you got to plan ahead for that one. But it's definitely a bucket list Manitoba experience, going up there and kayaking with beluga whales, paddleboarding. It's beautiful.
It's one of those things where people say in Manitoba, really? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you haven't leaned into that. Now, you mentioned that this is something that needs planning because you also might need to have sort of I'm saving to go to Churchill piggy bank.
Yeah.
Because
exactly.
this is not it's not easy to get to Churchill, which is why there's an expense attached, right?
Yeah, there is. But you know what? If you're able and you can pull together a quick trip on it, you can take the train up to Churchill. You can take it from Winnipeg or Thompson, and there are a lot of ways to make that trip happen this summer. But of course, if that's not possible, look ahead to next season.
So if you're going to Churchill, you're going to train or plane, you're going to plan and save. You might be going to see belugas. What's the season for that? Is that like...
It's July, August. Yeah. So
Right now.
Yeah. But if that's something that's just not in the cards for you, then there's so many things to do, within driving distance. So as some Manitobans may be aware, all provincial parks are free this year. So you don't need to purchase that park pass. So all it takes is getting to that park. And we've got a lot of great parks for camping or even day trips. If you're in Winnipeg, driving up to Birds Hill for a beach day, they've got concessions there. They've got beach volleyball or all sorts of things. Really great walking and biking trails as well. If you want to go a little further, there's Grand Beach Provincial Park. It's still day trip worthy. Go swimming. You can, if you've got like a kayak or a canoe, you could paddle on the lake. But it's also a great spot for camping. Some of my favorites are the Whiteshell Provincial Park and Spruce Woods Provincial Park. Both of those are really great spots. Whiteshell's got some great accommodations as well. There are cabins you can rent, lodges you can stay in, or you can do the whole tent camping thing.
Let's talk about the Whiteshell for a second, because if people have not explored Manitoba at all, they may not realize that if you're going up to sort of do your back trails or any of your camping, in and around sort of Winnipeg area, or even east, I would suggest, west, I would suggest, it's very different than when you go to the Whiteshell. Because you go to the Whiteshell, you start to get into that really rocky, completely different, completely different terrain.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful, and it's worth a visit because it is very unique, right? It's boreal forest meets Canadian Shield. So you're going to have all those rocky surfaces on your hikes. And so there's one hike, Hunt Lake, just east of West Hawk Lake. That's a really great example of the Canadian Shield and boreal forest together. It's also a very challenging hike. So if you're not into hiking, you could sample part of it, but if you want to do the whole thing, I think it's about 13 kilometers, and you want to plan snacks, plan water, because it is a challenging hike.
That's good advice as well, right? For anything you're doing camping wise or any of those activities, you kind of got to know what your fitness level is depending on what you're going to venture and do.
Exactly.
So how popular is camping in Manitoba? Do most people go to the parks, to the big places? Do they book for a week? Like, do we have a sense of how popular it is?
I don't have those numbers, but I know camping is pretty popular in Manitoba. I know it's something I grew up with, my friends grew up with. I would say it's fairly popular. What else is really popular is glamping in Manitoba.
Yeah. So this took off a couple of years ago. We're doing all these stories about glamping. And so obviously everybody knows what that is. It's kind of camping with a little more amenities.
Exactly. Yeah. But still tucked away in nature, right? You're still getting that whole experience of, being in a forest or being near the lake, but you're staying in something that has, a washroom with running water right there, a shower, sometimes a hot tub and a barbecue. So it's all those cozy amenities of home, but still getting, being out in nature.
Are there a lot of companies that are taking up the glamping still? I know a few years ago there were yurts and there were really organized sort of glamping areas. Do you still see that a lot?
Yeah, so yurts there are very popular in provincial parks, and Riding Mountain National Park has yurts and authentics. But there's a new glamping option in Riding Mountain called Turtle Village, which is micro cabins, and it's Indigenous owned by her name is Ashley Smith. She and her family run it, and they also do guided storytelling experiences where you can learn about the Indigenous ties to the area. There's also places like Moonlit Canopy, Glamping Instead, Wild Skies Resort, Oak Haven Oasis. That one's out near Brandon. There's also Voyager houseboats on the Winnipeg River. So that's a newer one where you can you book the houseboat. They take you out to a spot on Winnipeg River, and you spend your weekend on a boat on the river, and it's just so peaceful.
I want to do that.
Yeah. And I bring these up as popular because they can sometimes be hard to book ahead. So if you haven't already booked them, my advice is to join their newsletters. They often will share cancellations or last minute openings through their newsletters, and you're often the first one to know if you're on that list.
I love that. So camping and glamping, anything else we missed before we go to our next category?
Oh, there is
lots,
so, we have 93 provincial parks in the province, so there is lots. I would just say if camping or glamping is your thing, like we have a page on our website for that at travelmanitoba.com. So, I've scratched the surface here, but go on our website and there's a lot more there.
Why don't we go to my people, the hotel people?
Yes.
So this is, camping and glamping for me. Sometimes it's like, okay, now I'm ready for like some pampering action in the summertime, and Manitoba is so lovely. A lot of people immediately say Hecla. Because of course Hecla is north of Gimli, and obviously beautiful and lovely and has a spa and everything else. But there's quite a few options actually now, and a lot of them that if you haven't been in a while out and about, you might be surprised what's been developed.
Yeah, I definitely would recommend Hecla Lakeview Resort and the Salka Spa. Very beautiful. They have a golf course up there as well. So if you're looking for that kind of calm, relaxing getaway, that's definitely a good spot.
And you can rent, if you want to be active and still be the hotel people, like I think you can still rent bikes, right? And you can go all around the island.
I'm sure someone there has rentals. Yeah. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm sure there's spots to rent kayaks too, or other kind of on the water activities.
Really peaceful.
Yeah, it's beautiful up there. A new one is Clarso Nordic Spa in near Riding Mountain National Park. So that one is connected to Elkhorn Resort.
Someone told me about this, and because they were like, "Oh, maybe we should go to the spa," and I immediately said Hecla because my head's there, and then they were like, "No, let's go to this one." It's newer than Hecla, at least, but I heard it's beautiful.
It is beautiful. And, if you've been to the Thermea Spa Village here in Winnipeg, it has a kind of a similar process where you do that
the hot cold thing?
Thank you. Yeah, the hot cold cycle. So you go into like a dry sauna or a hot sauna, and then you go into the cold pool. So it's a really nice experience, and it's outdoors right by Riding Mountain National Park. So you can go hiking, biking, do the adventurous thing all day, and then relax in the spa in the evening.
Riding Mountain is such a gift. I think we were there last year like I said, I'm always out for the news thing. So it's like Clear Lake troubles with zebra mussels last year. But when we were there, it's like you immediately drive into the park and you're like, oh, this is a federal park.
Yeah.
It's just really, really beautiful that somehow the trees are bigger. I don't know. It's just such a pretty part of the province.
Well, you know what else? Just recently, Parks Canada announced that parks admission for national parks is also free this year and 25% off camping. So if you're wanting to, you can still go to the spa even if you want to camp in Wasagaming. But yeah, they're also offering that for free this year.
And there's a theater there. So
Yeah.
if you're really my hotel people and you still want to catch a movie and get some good food, there's a bunch of restaurants. There's a theater, which is an old log theater. We did a cool story on it.
People love talking about the White House cinnamon buns. That's really popular. And Lake House for good food and coffee. There's a lot going on in Wasaga.
We broadcast from there outside the White House, and it was like it was very distracting, the smell.
Yeah,
they were
believe it.
baking while we were doing the show, and I was like, okay, hang on, focus. Okay, anything else on hotel people?
Well, if you want to just do some, maybe you're coming into Winnipeg or you're in Winnipeg and you just want to stick around, there's 10 Spa at Fort Garry Hotel, a great spa. I've been there a few times. There's also Riverstone Spa at Inn at the Forks. So maybe you're wanting to like stay downtown and just have a really like, Winnipeg experience, going to Riverstone Spa, staying in at the Forks and experience the Forks Market. They've got great food and an outdoor patio. So there's a lot going on there. And then there's a great spa in Brandon, the Hill Spa. It's right downtown, very lovely, a very relaxing experience as well. And there's lots to see and do in Brandon as well.
Okay, let's remember Brandon is like not far from Winnipeg.
No,
you're just over 2 hours.
Yeah.
You're in Brandon. Let's move to. Well, you tell me. I was thinking Indigenous experiences because I'm quite excited about this guide.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about that. I do want to say one more thing about hotels.
Please, yeah.
If you're a family looking for a hotel with a pool, there's also quite a few options for that as well.
Oh, yeah. See, look at me. I'm all like hotel and spas. Sorry, families.
Yeah, that's all good. That's what I'm here for, Marcy. The Delta Hotel has an indoor and outdoor pool. They've got a rooftop pool, so you get a really great view of the city. You're right downtown, so that's a really good spot. Canada Inns in Portage la Prairie and Brandon also have hotels with water parks. And in Portage la Prairie, there's also Stride Place and Splash Island water parks. So if you really want like a water-themed weekend with your family, that's a great place to check out. And then I'll also mention Pinewood Lodge in Whiteshell Provincial Park also is a lodge with a pool. So that's a great spot for families. If you're wanting to have that pool experience and a little bit of lakeside, check out Pinewood Lodge.
What's really awesome too, I always think, I know my sister had, they're older now, but when they were little and they were traveling like this around the province, they'd be looking for hotel rooms. And sometimes it's always based on families of 4 and hers is a family of 5. So she would love the experiences in the summer because if you rent a cabin or if you may be at Pinewood and they also have out cabins as well as a main, a main bigger lodge, you can sometimes in a cottage, right? Like you get the space if your family's bigger.
Exactly.
Beyond the four people, if it's 5 or more.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Let's go to this guide then.
Yeah.
So it's called Adventure to Understanding, as Allison mentioned earlier. So this is your guide to authentic Indigenous tourism experiences in Manitoba.
Yeah.
I just want to stay here for a second and look at this. I love that it's a new thing that has been put together. Who led this? Was it those that are involved in all these experiences, or was it Travel Manitoba saying, we really need to put something comprehensive together?
Actually, this was produced by Indigenous Tourism Manitoba.
Fabulous.
So if you're not like Indigenous Tourism Manitoba, their role is to promote and work with all of the Indigenous tourism experiences and operators in the province. And they've really been growing Indigenous tourism over the last few years. There are more than 170 Indigenous-owned tourism businesses, and that's huge growth from, I think the last number we had was like about 70 in 2019. So there's been a huge growth in this area, and they wanted to have a guide that put that all together to help travelers learn more about Indigenous experiences. And also these are really great gateway to learning just about Indigenous culture and artisans and just hear stories from Indigenous peoples themselves. So they put together this guide, and this guide is full of all experiences that are accredited original, which is a national program that says that these are authentic Indigenous tourism experiences. So when you go and book with Prairie Berry or Wild Loon Adventure Company, or you go up to Churchill and go dog sledding with Wapuska Adventures, you are experiencing a tourism experience from an Indigenous-led lens. So that means that these are all authentic Indigenous experiences. So Turtle Village is in here that I mentioned. There's a great bed and breakfast in here. Wyndham Garden, Winnipeg Airport Hotel is Indigenous owned. There's also Moongate Guest House. There's so much in here, and this guide is brand new and it's free. You can get it at Travel Manitoba's Visitor Information Center at the Forks, or the new Indigenous Tourism Manitoba Discovery Center at the Forks. So it's a brand new space that you'll be able to get this guide. You'll be able to see Indigenous arts on display and really engage with what Indigenous tourism experiences are in this province. province. So that's a new center at the Forks.
I feel like this this is sort of a little bit of the benefit of COVID maybe as well, because post-COVID, obviously during COVID, we all had to just be here. And I feel like the tourism and travel, like, people, once they were able to safely get out, could really explore. And I feel like a lot of people are now like, oh yeah, Manitoba was awesome. So some of this growth and change and everybody getting organized, if there were any benefit to COVID, maybe this was part of it. This guide actually breaks things out too. Winnipeg, Eastman, Churchill, Interlake, West and Central Manitoba. And it's not just experiences, because sometimes exploring it is supporting artisans. I think I didn't plan this. My shirt is Anne Muller.
Oh, lovely. Yeah, she's in here.
I love her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's obviously a sustainable, size inclusive fashion. She's made tea, and she's been, making beautiful clothing here.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's a wide variety of experiences in here. Indigenous Tourism Manitoba also has a website, indigenoustourisammanitoba.com, where you can go and check out these operators and learn more about them as well. But also the print guide is available for free.
You can do a whole day trip just doing, like, you could go to Anne Muller and check out the fashion. You could go to Charcuterie, who I've also interviewed them on the show. They're fantastic. They've now opened a restaurant front. They've got those fancy boards.
I just learned that Charcuterie is partnered with Voyageur Houseboats, that houseboat accommodation I was talking about. And they're doing sunset cruises where you can have charcuterie and cruise on the Winnipeg River at sunset.
No one has to leave here ever, people. All right. So anything else to mention on Indigenous experiences? I mean, there's tons in the guide, of course. But
I would say this guide is a really great source. Also checking out the new space at the Forks is a really good idea. And their website. There's just a lot to discover in that space.
Arts and culture or day trips? We're doing pretty good here.
Let's do arts and culture, because you know what? We've been kind of talking about day trips throughout, and these will also connect into day trips. And then if there's anything we missed, we can tie it off at the end.
Okay. So when it comes to arts and culture, what are we talking about, first of all? Because to a certain extent, we've been talking about culture. So
exactly. So I think we talked about this category in terms of like festivals and events, because summer is a really big time for festivals across the province. I know there are your big ones like Winnipeg Folk Festival is coming up, Fringe Festival, Folklorama. Those are all really great festivals that are coming up, and I'm looking forward to all of them. But there are also festivals across the province. Gimli International Film Festival is coming up, and they have free sunset beach screenings of movies. So it's a really exciting one. And they've started shuttles to and from Winnipeg, so that makes it a little easier to get out there. There's also Corn and Apple Festival in Morden. That's a whole free weekend of all sorts of fun activities for families of all ages. The Filipino Street Festival is coming up August 16th to 17th. There's something called Frog Follies in St. Pierre-Jolie. I haven't been, and I want to go just to find out what that's all about. That's coming up in August.
They race frogs.
Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's in part what it is. Everyone in St. Pierre is probably going, no, Marcy, that's not all it is. And I know that. Celebrates the culture, celebrates the community, but that is part of it too, which I just think is super fun.
Isn't that? And there's also, Winnipeg Beach is an easy day trip drive away. A beautiful beach, lots of great restaurants, but they have boardwalk days coming up July 25th to 27th, where the boardwalk is just full of fun activities and things to do.
Do you know what I love about going up that way, Winnipeg Beach and Gimli side of the lake? They've also, and I really hope at the time we're doing the podcast here, like I haven't checked before I'm saying this, but I know that one of the new things they put in place there was accessibility at the water. Yeah. So that if you, and I'll never forget, there was this man on with us on CBC who was talking about on the radio show, who was talking about being able to go in the water and play with his grandkids because he had mobility issues, but he could take this sort of lift that kind of you strap into the chair and then it puts you in the water, and he could be at the beach with his kids. Oh, and I was like great. Welling up, like, that's so lovely. Right?
Yeah. And you know what? Manitoba Parks has made improvements to the Winnipeg Beach campground, and they do have some accessible campsites and properties there as well. They, if you call directly, you'll be able to find that all out. But also, Manitoba Parks website is a page that lists all the places where there are those Moby mats that give you access to the beach. It's like a mat that comes from, that goes over the sand to make it easier to move a chair, a stroller, anything closer to the beach so that everybody can access the water. We actually have a list of them in our inspiration guide as well.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, Manitoba Parks has all that on their website too.
Because that's the worst. When you're with someone who happens to use a cane cane or use a wheelchair, and then they're stopped. They're literally with their family having like a moment, and then they're stopped at the sand. So I love that. Arts and culture.
Yeah,
Interrupted us here.
Yeah, so I was talking about all sorts of festivals. There are so many festivals around the province, which is just so lovely, and we can keep talking about that. But I also want to jump to some free outdoor concert series. So this is something that is just such a fun part of summer.
I feel like we should have a sounder on the podcast. Free!
Yeah, exactly.
There, I just did it.
Yeah, perfect.
What do we got?
So one of them is Downtown Sounds Winnipeg. So if you're in Winnipeg, it's a free lunch hour concert series by the Downtown Winnipeg Biz. It's every Tuesday until almost the end of August in downtown spaces like the Forks, Richardson Center Plaza, the Workers' Comp Building, and on Graham Avenue. I know they're reimagining Graham Avenue right now to be a bit more of a public,
all pedestrian,
yeah. So there's planned concert for that. Assiniboine Park also has a few live shows coming up that are also free. So at the Lyric Theatre on Thursdays and Sundays, they've got different bands planned throughout the summer. They're also doing movies in the park on Fridays, also free. Ballet in the park from July 23rd to 25th at the Lyric Theatre. There's also garden concerts at the Leaf Outdoor Gardens Saturdays at 11 a.m. throughout July, and jazz concerts in the Leo Mole Sculpture Garden Sundays at noon throughout July and August. So there's a lot of ways to get out and just enjoy music in some beautiful outdoor spaces this summer. I also know that in Gimli, they're kind of doing a concert series as well called the Rockin' Gimli Harbor Concert Series, which is starting now, or I think it's already started actually, until end of August, with performances Saturday evenings throughout the summer. So I think that's just such a fun, unique thing to go enjoy music outside in beautiful weather.
I do too. Yeah, I do as well. Day trips. Now we've mentioned them sort of throughout here. So if you are planning a day trip, you said you have a whole section, right, that you guys really focus on this at Travel Manitoba?
Yeah. So we have a section on our website that's like a combination of day trips and road trips. So you can go for the day, or if you wanted to extend it, you could turn it into a road trip. But one that you could do is heading out to the Morden area and going to the Canadian Fossil Discovery Centre. That's just a really cool museum where the world's largest mosasaur lives. His name is Bruce. And so if you haven't seen it, kids love it, and it's really great. And Morden also has a beach there, Lake Minnewaska, Kohler Beach. And they've got an inflatable park right on the water. So if you want to do a day trip, you could stop in Carmen at Sills for lunch, go to the Canadian Fossil Discovery Centre, or go to the beach. If you're wanting to be in that area, there's also high wire zip line out.
I've never done it.
Oh, you should,
I've
Marcy.
eaten at Sills, but I haven't zip lined there. I've heard it's pretty great.
Yeah, so the zip line is a little bit further than Morden. But yeah, they've got five or seven different lines you can do, and you're just like flying over the Pembina Valley. It's beautiful. It's a great summer activity, but I also love doing it in the fall when the trees start changing colors.
Yeah.
But yeah, any of those would make a really great day trip. If you want to head up to the Interlake, you could go to the Marine Museum in Selkirk. You could stop at the Half Moon Drive-In for lunch. Also, if you're heading, you could head to Lockport to go to Skinner's and check out Upper Fort Garry, which is in the area. There's also Steep Rock Beach, which is an easy day trip from Winnipeg.
Let's just stop at Steep Rock, because for those Manitobans listening to the podcast today, if you've never been to Steep Rock, you're going to go there and you're going to go, oh, really?
It's unique.
That's what you'll do. And then you'll look over the cliff and you'll go, oh, this is why it's called Steep Rock. And then you're going to go, is that water really that color?
Yeah.
Because it is blue like you haven't seen.
It's gorgeous.
Such a special place, Steep Rock.
Yeah. And you know what? It's a great paddling spot. A lot of people go kayaking there. And if you don't own a kayak, they actually have rentals on site. So
nice.
You just bring the family, be prepared to get out on the water. You can rent a kayak. They've even got a little cafe and patio if you need food. So it's a really great day experience.
We are almost out of time.
Oh my goodness.
I know, it's flown by like crazy, Allison. So here's what I want to do though. I want to add one extra little category because we talked about, hotel people, glamping people, day trips, longer trips. We talked about, if you have families or if you're just going with a couple friends. But what about people with pets?
Oh, yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of pet-friendly places, and pet-friendly travel is actually growing. So we have a page on our website dedicated to pet-friendly travel, and it's got lists of accommodations where you can stay with your pets. So places like the Holiday Inn Express in Brandon, Otter Falls Resort in North Whiteshell, Rose Beach House in Winnipeg Beach, which is a newer accommodation. You really need to check that one out. Blue Crescent Hotels in Carmen. So that's actually right by Sills. So if you're wanting to do a little weekend getaway in that area of the province with your pet, you could stay there. They've also actually got a slide there, so it's also a good family spot in the hotel. Go to Sills for lunch. So there's a lot of places that are now accommodating pets. So if traveling with your furry friend is something you want to do, there's a place for you to go.
Okay, I had to nod to that. It's an area of growth, right? Have an awesome summer.
You too, Marcy. Am
Thank
I
you
going
for
to
being
see
on
you
the
out
podcast.
somewhere?
You know what? I ziplined in Newfoundland last year.
Oh, did you?
It was raining and it was terrifying. It was on the side of a mountain. So now I feel all like, oh yeah.
Okay, let's go ziplining.
I got this.
Yeah.
I can do the Pembina Valley. Plus, you just sold it to me because it sounds beautiful. But
is
maybe I'll wait
beautiful.
till the fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll have to spa in the summer.
It's going to be beautiful either way, but yeah.
So let's leave people with this, Allison, the email once again, because if you do want information, a reminder where we started. So there's 4 different Travel Manitoba centers in the province. And if you want to contact them for anything, the email is actually contact us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Contact us at travelmanitoba.com. You can also give us a call. It's on our website. You can find that number. And come on down to our centers. We've got all sorts of lovely people who have traveled across Manitoba. They have different travel styles. So there's someone there who's got the advice you need.
Allison, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Marcy.
That's Allison Dalke on the podcast today. She's from Travel Manitoba. She's a communications specialist. And we hope you all have an awesome summer. Thanks for tuning into This Is Manitoba. My name is Marcy Markusa, and maybe we'll see you out there. In the meantime, while you got your earbuds in and you're listening to us, or maybe you're checking us out here on YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, especially with your fellow Manitobans who are looking for something to do in 2025.